All right, our guest today transformed himself from tech developer to stand-up comedian while building Stampede Social, the platform that's fixing everything wrong with that thing that we used to say all the time, which is called link in bio. Wah, wah. Jeff's also the host of the amazing podcast Classic Conversations and the live show Crossing the Stream. So please welcome our new friend, Jeff Dwoskin. What is up, man?
What's up, everybody? Jim, you added the next a pause, and it's kibitzing. Just it flows. Oh, it's not kibitz. We got a whole hour on Yiddish words.
Yeah,
and then we met.
Well, I'm not Yiddish. Sorry.
No, you're not Yiddish. The Madeline Sklar. We met on. I think I was guesting on her thing, and you were like all part of that squad. And then that's when we met virtually, and then we met in person. And
yes.
Can I have a little FOMO? Can I do something real quick? Can I do something real quick? I was like,
do whatever you want.
If you want to sell smart, stream. Wait, I'm going to just start over because you talked over. If you want to sell smart, stream smarter, and actually have fun doing it, Dealcasters is where the magic happens. There, I wanted to do something so I could get into your next opener.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Wait.
Oh, dude, it's a good thing we're recording these things, man. That is good.
I know. If you like that, I could do Dealcasters didn't just level up live streaming; they gave it its own superpower. There you go.
If only you could spit out rocket emojis when you say that. That would be amazing.
But I also asked ChatGPT to write me a theme song for you guys, but we can do that later.
That would be awesome. George, hello from YouTube. We thank you for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've got any questions for our amazing guest, and Rome Knows Tech is chiming in from Amazon with, Lord, that is the most beautiful cursive I've ever seen on a live stream right there. Say hello, everyone.
Great.
You're watching.
It's giving me MySpace vibes.
That was amazing.
Let's just let everyone choose whatever color and font they want. What could go wrong?
Nothing. Rome Knows Tech is an amazing show on Amazon. That guy is a photographer, a trade, goes live and does, like, one time, Jeff, he did a show and his face just turned into a baby and a baby's voice came out. And I don't know how he did it, but it just... I can't unsee it. I didn't sleep for like 2 nights after I saw that. It was incredible. It was horrifying and incredible at the same time. But it's a good thing because we said that, and Rome went ahead and changed his font. So we just got a lowercase Comic Sans LOL. So how about that, Jeff?
Well, yeah. I didn't mean to font shame you, Rome Knows Tech.
No, it's amazing. So Jeff, I could tell already this show is not going to be any fun at all. And the other great thing about having you on is you're not just an entrepreneur. You're not just fun, but you are an actual comedian. And I believe, Jim, our first comedian on Dealcasters. Do I have that right?
Yes, I think you're right. I think not only is he our first Substack guest, but he's our first comedian. I think we've had other people that think they were comedians, but I think he's the first official one. Yes.
Got it. So wear the crown, Jeff. And so the one thing that I know I wanted to start at with your story is, typically, there are comedians turned business people, right? Comedians turned entrepreneurs, right? But you're an entrepreneur that turned into a comedian and then kind of back into entrepreneurship. So, because you started in the tech space and then said, "I'm done with this. I'm choosing this other life." Talk to us about that and why you chose that and what was going on there.
Well, I wish it was as dramatic as you say. I didn't. I kind of always run parallel. I'm just saying. I've always made sure to feed my creative side and my brain. Don't put me all alone. I like it when
I feel so alone.
We're here with you, Jeff. I promise.
Yeah, I feel like all of a sudden it's like it's all about me, and no, I mean I've always felt like creatively my brain kind of works in multiple ways. Like meaning like I've always been the entrepreneur, so that is one way I see my creative outlet is um, creating applications that businesses can use or consumers can use to help them. But then also, I also enjoy stand-up comedy and being funny and making people laugh on stage. And I did that for 20 years. And then when I started podcasting, I sort of, especially with during the COVID years, sort of made the shift a little bit to this. And I've always kind of kept one foot in the creative side, being a creator, because I really enjoy doing that. And the other side in kind of more of the business world. But they've always kind of crossed over just enough that it would, it's just something. It's hard for me to ever to say I could give up one and not the other.
Right. Do you have a take as to why comedy podcasts or podcasts that feature comedians, why they are so popular? Do you feel like you being one of those, a comedian who also has podcast and is involved in the space? Why do you? I mean, they are wildly popular. Is it because they're just not boring, which is kind of the number one rule for us is like if you have a podcast, you could have the most, important information that you're delivering and adding the most value. But man, if you're boring, people are, like that. What's your take on why, comedic podcasts are so popular?
I think comedians have a kind of a special view of the world. I always kind of described it as sort of a 360 view of the world because you really become an expert at creating stories or, if you're on stage telling jokes, and you have to appeal to a wide variety of people. So, for example, the content, this how I usually try to explain it is if you guys have been friends, which you've been friends, I'm sure for a very long time, you could be going to dinner together, and Chris, you could just say something. Jim will know exactly what you're talking about, and you guys can start to belly laugh, right? No, everyone else will think you're crazy around you, but you know exactly. You just recall the memory without barely scratching the surface of that memory from 10 years ago, right?
Right.
So if you're on stage, if I walk on to stage at a comedy club, I'm in front of, say, 300 people, and I'm about to tell an experience or tell a story, and I need them to react. I don't have that. I don't have that at all. I have the potential of some shared experiences. So it's my job to be able to present that in a way that's going to connect with hopefully the most amount of people in that audience immediately. And that's the skill I think that comedians bring to the table. And so when you're talking with someone, you can, I think quicker on your feet than other people. So you'll see their reactions. When you see a Nikki Glazer immediately reacting to something or something like that's a honed skill that just is a natural reaction at some point. And so that makes them funny because I was at a restaurant once and I said something, the waitress said something and I said something and she goes, "Oh, that's funny, but you weren't the first person to say it." And I said, "But did I say it faster than they said it?"
That's awesome.
Yeah. But, because ultimately we can all think of the same things. But I think that's the other kind of key thing to a comedian's superpower is they're able to think of things faster. We're also able to have entire conversations in the back of our head while we're delivering an entire monologue and everything to you. So it's not uncommon if you're watching a comedian doing something that they may be thinking in the back of their head, okay, this is what I'm going to do next. It's this weird kind of skill where you can be doing two things at the same exact time.
Right.
And it's not something and I think I always thought when I first started doing podcasting, I actually didn't use this type of mic. I actually got a mic stand and I had a microphone in it so that I could feel like I was on stage when I was doing it. And I did that for a while until you realize you bump the microphone 50,000 times.
Those bonks ain't good for podcasts. Yeah.
It's not good for editing. It's not good for anyone. And so, so I switched to this, which is much nicer. But so yeah, I think that's why. I think there's just that built-in kind of skill, like.
We'll get right back to the show, but first, I wanted to tell you about the School of Podcasting, the #1 place to learn about podcasting, brought to you by the amazing Podcast Hall of Famer, Dave Jackson. I'm a member, and it's a fantastic place for podcast courses, a super helpful podcast community, and unlimited, that's right, unlimited podcast coaching. The link to check it out is here in the show notes, or you can head on over to sop.dealcasters.live and tell Dave that Dealcasters sent you. Now back to the show.
Yeah, I think anyone can learn it over time too. I mean, it's just.
You mean there's hope for us? You mean I could become?
No, not for you.
Well, maybe Chris.
Well, Chris knows there's one way I can make Chris laugh, but I won't do it on live.
He does this impression of somebody that we know, Jeff. And again, it's like one of those things where just exactly what you're talking about. Because we're friends and we know each other, he could do the voice and I know exactly who it is. I think it's funny, but the room of 300 people won't know that it's funny at all. And I think that's a fantastic way to frame that, because I mean, I'm a huge fan of learning things from people outside of the space, right? And so, like there are certain things that people that are gamers do to build their communities, but they may not have the monetization concept down pat, but they sure know how to build communities and to create really great, engaging, sort of live streams. Preachers, if you're a keynote speaker, like you can, even if you don't you aren't following, what they're actually saying. There's a lot of things that they're doing speaking wise and leading that you can learn from. And so that what you said there about, the advantage of a comedian is that they've had all of those years of bombing, and that experience of being on a stage and saying, these people have no idea who I am, what I'm going to say, and I have to figure out a way to craft something to take them with me for the next X amount of minutes. It's, wow, that's incredible. So how would somebody begin to learn that? Is it just go through the reps of doing this? Like you said, you think people can learn it.
It's anything it's like repetition. So it's like if you're a podcaster and you start to get a feel for something and people react when you do a certain thing, then that's working, So it's like when you're doing stand-up comedy, you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. And so by doing things over and over again, you can finesse it and understand what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's really about editing, So if you're only doing something one time, you don't get any of the benefits of that. You hopefully, if you have done it enough times, you can have a good feel for what might work and might not work if you only got it as a one-off, But a lot of times, if you came and saw me do a show, I probably have done that joke 500 times. So it's just a matter of, getting it the way you want to get it. There's pauses, I remember early on when I was doing stand-up comedy, one of the headliners said to me, he goes, Jeff, you're going to be great when you figure out where you need to pause. He goes, I can't tell you where you need to pause, but you need to figure it out. Just know that that's the power is in the pause. And so I was like, oh man, okay. And then eventually I got really good at it. And I remember being at my day job working, and my CEO was like, I just took a weekend course. I spent X amount of dollars on how to pause. And I'm like, what the I could have told you how to pause. I mean, right? So, I will say, by pause, what I mean by that is is controlling the silence. That's what pausing it is. It's controlling the silence. And when you control the silence, especially if you're on the stage by yourself in a room full of 300, you have the power. You've taken the power. And when you have the power and the control, then that's where you start to, then the audience comes to you. And so, some of those walls of barriers start to break down. So, but that's, it's all about, I always say comedy is 95% confidence. It helps that, the good material is great too, but
right.
A good material with great confidence, you can skirt by with bad. You won't have a career with it, but you can get
sure. Well, if you're a musician in a band, it's kind of the same thing. You don't have to be that great. Especially, I played bass. You don't have to, especially be a especially great bass player. But man, if you mean it, and you can sell it, and people will be like, I can't hear a note the guy's playing, but he sure looks like he's enjoying it and feeling everything. So you talked about when you were done, and the guy said you're going to be great. You just have to learn to pause. Do you feel like that industry is similar to the podcasting industry? Is it competitive, or like it? When somebody tells you you have something to work on, like they mean the best. They most of the time they mean they have the best intentions. Like, hey, I just want to let you know, like I think you could be really great, but there's like if I could share this with you, I think you need to work on this. I think you say what not too much in a podcast, and that this is what Jim said about me, by the way. Those kinds of things, at first kind of don't feel great, but if you pause and you go, okay, this can help me because I respect this person, right? And is the comedy scene, is it an industry, is it like that in terms of, finding people that are mentor, or is it competitive, similar to podcasting, different than podcasting?
I think it's a tight community. It's people respect each other. You'll hear the term comedians sometimes. Comedians really enjoy watching other comedians that they respect. The best compliment you can give another comedian is, I wish I had thought of that. I wish I had written that. And, it's not so much competition. I mean, we're all competing. There's only so much space online. But I think the issue is there's just, comedians, especially in the local scenes, can multiply like rabbits in terms of, I don't mean picking up. I mean, every week there's 50 comedians, but there isn't more spots. So you end up seeing a lot more open mics and, stuff like that. But it was, when I was actively part of that community, it was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that the disadvantage you guys have by doing live shows is that you can't comment out. You can't edit out the words that you say. You know what I mean? Like if you were editing it, you could comment out some of the stuff. Like I'll say to somebody like, hey, Chris, you're from Michigan, right? And then you'll go, yeah, I am from Michigan. But like in the edit, I'll take out the word right, because that was the word I prompted you to give the answer. So you knew I wanted an answer.
Yeah.
But I don't want you reacting to that word. So I'll tell you, hey, you're from Michigan. I am from Michigan.
Yeah, I think live video, and I know you have a show that you go live on that's related to binge watching certain shows, and we want to get into that. But and there's certainly a difference between recorded podcasting and doing that and going live, and I kind of equate it to public speaking. So you don't. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Jeff Dwoskin, and somebody hits play on something and you come up on the screen, or these mega churches where, they have campuses and like the pastor preaches from one campus and then it's broadcast to 12 different churches on the campus. And it's sort of like, is that him? I guess he's live. It doesn't really feel live. And I felt like the only way to get better at overcoming perfectionism and it's saying the wrong way and speaking improperly and all the problems that I felt like I had was to hit the red button and do it and go live and be like, I didn't die. Okay, let me, and not edit that much, because that's how I talk. And so, if somebody were to watch one of these videos and then they were to meet me, this is what you get. and that includes, saying stupid stuff sometimes, and saying right to prompt people. Isn't that right, Jeff?
Right. Sorry to disappoint your fans. If you meet Chris, this is what you get.
Oh man.
Yeah, I do. I agree with you 100%. But I'll say that there's sometimes like a different kind of mentality behind it, right? So if you're live, and we know this is live, so my brain might make sure it has the support system on to make sure that I can keep talking and keep doing things and know that it's not going to edit. Like if I'm talking, if I know I'm recording something that isn't live and I'm going to edit it, and I go to say, and I go, hey, how do you like it? Amablon. Oh, I mean, hey, how do you like Amazon? I know that that's going to be gone. I know I can just edit it out because in my head, I've trained myself to be kind of editing and understanding those things as I go. And so I, will do that on purpose. Like, why did he just repeat the exact same thing? Because one of them's going away. And
very true. This was the day that Jeff Dwoskin made editing funny. And so that's going to end up, this will end up as a clip because everybody hates editing except me. And, I have fun with it sometimes. And so this will definitely, be fun. Jim, I know you had a question. Sorry to cut you off.
No, before we get into, because we really want to get into talking about Social Stampede, but I always hear people say, oh, well, you should learn improv. But what's the difference between improv and comedy? Or is there a difference?
Well, one is consistently funny and the other one is improv. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding around. It's that is a subtle way of saying that comedians and improvs, it's like, which is better, Microsoft or Macintosh, that kind of thing. So we have it's a joking rivalry. The difference is if I'm doing a stand-up routine, I'm a stand-up. So if I go and do a stand-up routine and I'm going to do 25 minutes, let's say I'm middling or whatever, 45 minutes of I'm headlining, I know exactly what I'm going to say. Now, there may be some interaction with the audience that is off the cuff slightly, but ultimately, I know what I'm going to say because I've delivered it and it's, I wouldn't say scripted, but it's like, I know what I'm going to say to deliver to get the laughs, right? Because comedy is very methodical for a stand-up comedian. When you write to hit that punchline, it's like baking. You can't all of a sudden just exchange baking powder for baking soda. It's like, words matter, pauses matter, things matter. And like, oh my God, hi, can we find something where Jeff just looks...
The internet writes in ink. This is Laughs
okay, funny
TV
story
right
here. So funny thing about Laughs TV, I know, I wish always the time look, the camera adds 25 pounds. So here's the funny thing about that Laughs TV. I filmed that. Let me say, not that. I filmed Laughs TV. I had one of the best sets of my life. Okay. About a couple of weeks later, I'm at the same club. I'm working the weekend. I'm going on stage. And as I'm walking on stage, you want to screw with a comedian. This is what you screw with them as they're about to walk on stage.
Yeah.
The guy running the back room says, oh, by the way, did you hear they lost the tape? I'm like, what tape? They lost the Laughs tape. It's gone. They lost my, ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Dwoskin. I'm a motherfucker. And and so I had to walk. So then they come back and do it again. And that was the second time they recorded it. And so it wasn't bad, but it's like, there's a thing like in your head when you do something, it's just like anything, sometimes just some things just work out. There's like when you're doing comedy, there's how on are you? You know what I mean? Did you not screw up any of the words? Because, we all screw up words sometimes.
Sure.
And what's the audience reaction, right? And so sometimes the audience is so in tune with what you're saying, they'll laugh at everything you're saying, and it's just golden. Now, don't get me wrong, that's 1 out of 100 times. But that first time, that was that, okay?
Oh, wow.
So you're not going to get that the second time. And normally I wouldn't care, but it's like, this was for TV, right? So
yeah.
This is my big break. I went, no, I could have been a contender. But so that was that. That was it. So it was a real bummer. But it was cool. Thanks for thanks for bringing that up.
No, listen, this is what happens. I mean, listen, Google Juice, Jeff Dwoskin stand up, and that's the first one that came up, So, hey, listen, there's, the internet writes in ink, and I think it's good to just kind of let people know, like, and I watched some. I'm not going to lie, I watched some of your stand up, and it is funny, and you told a story about your wife's birth and her water breaking. Your wife giving birth and her water breaking in the car, and I can't believe she had all that trouble while she was driving. And I was like, okay. We'll get right back to the show, but first I wanted to tell you about Stream Like a Boss with the amazing Tanya Smith. Whether you're a coach, consultant, or creator, Tanya's got that magic to turn your live streaming skills into a powerful lead generation engine, transforming those chirping crickets into cash-paying clients with a revolutionary boss framework. The link to check it out is here in the show notes, or you can head on over to streamlikeaboss.tv. Hey, and tell Tanya that Dealcasters sent you. Now back to the show.
Nothing a comedian loves more than when someone repeats the joke back to them wrong. But thank you. We're learning so much. We're learning so much tonight. I'll tell you. You reminded me of a different. You reminded me of a different story. So we were doing a showcase, and one thing that's amazing to do when you're doing comedy is if you can call back or reference something that the whole audience had seen. It can be really, really hilarious. And so we were doing this comedy competition. It was a great audience. And the guy before me, I don't know what planet this guy was coming from, okay? But I tell you, it was crazy. And then next up, Jeff Dwoskin. Jeff Dwoskin walks out. I walk out there, and I made a joke about him, okay? Like, oh, well, that explains. I won't say it because in hindsight, it's not a good taste. But but I make a joke, and here's the thing: I make this joke, and when I tell you, never before, never after, did I get the biggest laugh in my life. I'm talking 300, 400 people. I hit 400 out of 400. Okay, like that's how loud this laugh was.
Roasted.
And I'm looking at I'm all in, as I'm taking this in, thinking this is the biggest laugh I've ever gotten ever, and I'm just thinking to myself, there is nothing I am about to say that is as fun as what I just offered.
Wow. It was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Boom.
It was worth it. It was worth it. It was worth it. But it was like one of those things. So
only downhill from here.
Sorry, all the stories are coming back now.
No, this is great. This is great. So you have this show called Classic Conversations, and I think it's important to realize, and we spoke about this earlier. Jeff is the founder of something called Stampede Social, and we're gonna get into that. But I think it's important too to understand you're not just some software developer who said, I'm going to solve the link in bio here. You're also a podcaster, and not just any podcaster, but somebody that has something like 300 maybe interviews ish.
A little over. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And
episode 364 just dropped. We're live. I can say the actual number.
Okay.
Well, sometimes it'd be like, we're episode 300, and then it airs in 3 months, and it's like, he's on episode like 500,
Okay, yeah. That was a safe
we're live,
number.
so it's the magic of being live. Hey.
Yes. I'm sorry to date this. This will go on and live forever, this interview, so there likely is thousands.
We'll see. Yeah, how many more episodes will he have after today?
Well, we're live, so if you could listen, you could start right now and listen to 364 episodes. You start right now. You'll
in
be
the year
done,
2029.
Yes.
You could start now. Yes.
You never have to listen to anything again.
So classic conversations. Oh my God. My stomach hurts already. So classic conversations, you're having conversations with, and this was this brilliant idea, by the way. The funny thing is if you look at the people that you're interviewing and you see their names, they're not necessarily like when you read the name, you're like, oh, that's, you immediately, you come to mind, it's a celebrity. It's not, when somebody sees Kim Kardashian, they know who that is or whatever.
Right.
Maybe a terrible example, Jim Fuse. So they know who that is, right? But there are people that are being interviewed on your podcast and you see their name and you don't quite recognize it, but then you'll see the thumbnail image and you'll see the image and you're like, oh my gosh, I know who Ted Lang is. This is Isaac, the bartender from Love Boat. And you're like, Love Boat? I love that show when I was a kid. And I think it's a fantastic thing. And there's so many, I don't know the names of these people, right? And then you all of a sudden they have these great, interesting stories about the shows that they were a part of. Do you have any favorites? I know it's really it's a difficult question, and I always hate that to be asked of me. So I decided to transfer the hate to you and allow you to choose your favorite child or favorites. But anything that comes to mind, recently or in the past, where you said, "Okay, this was, a really fun show."
Yes. Ted Neely, I think, is usually my go-to answer for that, which is he was Jesus in Jesus Christ Superstar, the 1970s movie.
Yeah.
I'm Jewish, so I never had seen the movie. I was familiar with the story, but
sure.
I've heard rumblings. But
this is where Jim not being Yiddish comes into play.
Yeah. Right? We were kibbutzing, and the callback. That's a callback.
We're hitting all the bases here.
Yeah, we're hitting all the bases. So I mean, I watched the movie, and they were coming out with a documentary on the movie as well. So I watched that, and there was a scene in the documentary that we talked about before we actually started taping, and we kind of bonded over this thing. And I don't know, just, some people, when you talk to them, it's like you knew them forever. I mean, I've never talked to them since. I'm not like, what I mean? And, but that's how that one felt. You mentioned you play bass earlier, and I just had on for the second time, I think it was last week, John Billings. He's the bass player for the Monkees. And,
nice.
And so, I don't know, we just so clicked the first time. We stayed buddies, and then he came back because they just did a Mickey Dolenz Live at the Troubadour album. So he came back and talked about, he was the producer of that. And so, but some people you can just have a good rapport with. Some it's not. When I do my thing, I do a lot of research, but I don't write any questions. I know like things I want to hit. Like I'll write out my notes, and I'll write out notes and I'll highlight words. I just happen to have that sitting there. And I know those are the words topics that I want to make sure I cover. Best case scenario is when I'm talking and it just naturally, everything kind of just comes into place. You know what I mean? Where I don't have to actually work that hard to do anything, because I just go to wherever I need to go to. But I'd say those were fun. Ted Lang was a lot of fun. Kato Kaelin was a blast to talk to. The guest that I thought was like the one where I was like, okay, I think I made it now, in my head at least, as a pop culture podcast, is when I had Burt Ward on for episode 50, and then had him on 250. But the second time he asked to be on the show, so it was like, oh, okay, because I don't tend to go back to the same people. There's 3 people that have been on the show more than once. Billy Van Zandt, who probably falls under the name of people you don't know, but if you would know his work. Jackie the Joke Man Martling's been on a few times.
Oh yeah,
we worked together, so we kind of had a little bond there. And then John Billings now, but so yeah, I mean, so those are the ones that are kind of, I think the most fun. It's like it depends on what they come to the table with. You know what I mean? Like how much they're prepared just to have a conversation. I don't know what's happened in their life up until the hours that they spend with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I'd say most of the time, it's rare that sometimes like the only disappointment I get is like, oh, I thought we were going to become best friends, and we don't. But like, but I don't.
That was the dream.
I don't have time to become best friends with famous people. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm hoping to be best friends with you by the end of this conversation, Jeff. So I'm working
I think
on
we
it.
are.
I'm working on it. Yeah,
I think we're already. I think. It's a combination of like I like to reach out to people I'm interested in. Like when I was obsessed with the Orville, the TV show, we reached out and got a few of those folks on. So I think my thing is that I'm not technically connected with anyone. Like I get all my guests. You know what I mean? I do have some people that refer some people to me as some friends that do friends that know people and they'll send people my way or refer me. And occasionally a guest will refer someone, which I think is a good honor.
Yeah.
And then, and most time I found that the more I did, the easier it was to get people to say yes.
Right, because people are like social proof. They're going, okay, this isn't just some schmuck in a Batman costume in his basement. He actually has he's got a real thing going on. And like this is incredible because my assumption was, Jeff, that you had connections, like, you're, quote unquote show business, right? And so there was some sort of connection which allowed you to have these conversations, but you're in a lot of cases you're basically cold calling, in the digital sense for a lot of folks, and maybe just trying to figure out who agents are or whatever for some people.
I figure 85% is that. I have a few PR publicists that will, hey, we're interested in having this person on the show, and then you get a lot of these. And please, everyone, beware of these people because I hope people. Because anytime I get an email, not from like a publicist, from a person who would send me someone who, even if I said no, but would be a logical person for me to consider. It's like, hey, Jeff, love classic conversations. Would be love to have Richard on. Richard is the #1 real estate seller in all of Miami, Florida, and would love to tell your folks all about how to, have a secondary stream of income. And I'm like, oh my God, did he pay her to send this to me? Because there was no vetting at all. And then I had to be nice. Hey, Lucy, I'm sure Richard's amazing, but not for my show. You know what I mean? So,
When you start a podcast, you definitely get hit up in every way, shape, or form on every DMs and possible with a lot of things, and some of them turn out to be actual things, but you really don't have time sometimes to even start going through them if they're coming at you like that. And typically they're not doing any research on their end. They're like, let me just cast the net as wide as I can and see if I get anybody to hook and have my client on your show, and it just doesn't serve. So I mean, the fact that you have such a ridiculously cool a niche, and that you're able to continue to do that and not, sellouts may be a bad word, but you're so devoted to the audience that you have there. And that's really the testament to longevity in the space, is to be able to serve that audience. Because if all of a sudden you had somebody on there that really wasn't aligned with what you wanted to do on the show to serve the audience, people are gone.
Right. And, my show, the line in the sand, and I'm not saying I wouldn't cross this line, but it's not something I actively pursue, is I don't do the current publicity stuff. I did one with, there was a show called Dinner with the Parents on Freevee, but it was like But what I said was, I'm not asking them about their character and stuff like that. I go, if I can actually interview them, then we can talk about the new show, as part of it. But I want to actually interview these people. I need an hour. I'm not one of those, I spent 3 minutes with Sylvester Stallone, so I put him on my website.
Right.
Because you got to ask him one question because Tulsa Kings 2 was coming out or something. Like that isn't, that isn't like what, I mean, that's fine. And people do, it's a thing, but it's like, one, I'd want to get paid to do that. I mean, if you're treating me as a real publicity stop for your literal current project to promote it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, especially if I have to turn it around quick or something like that. But it's like, if I can't spend time with someone, I don't consider it that I've met them. You know what I mean? You can see my wall behind me. Like, those are all people I've met and got their autograph, but I wouldn't say I met them. I met them for 15 seconds. You know what I mean? Yep. I paid them. It was a paid transaction. I paid Henry Winkler, though he was a delight, to get him to say I was cool as the picture of the Fonz. And, but if I can spend an hour with Burt Ward or 2 hours with Burt Ward, you know what I mean? Yeah. And the second time I said to him, I sent his publicist, I go, these are the topics we talked about the first time. We're not talking about them again. So we're going to cover new stuff. I need it to be a different hour.
Yeah. So Jeff, did you start Social Stampede as a way to promote your podcast? I mean, what really brought that about? Because you got a good-sized YouTube channel. You've been doing 364, soon to be 365 episodes of your podcast. What really got you started in that?
Stampede Social, it started a little bit ago in a different incarnation on Twitter. So part of the story is that we used to have this huge community on Twitter, 50,000 plus folks, and we would play hashtag games. It was called hashtag Roundup. And there was a time from 2015 to 2020, like at any given time, 3 to 4 of the organic trends in the United States were driven by my app that I built and our community. And we had the community was a series of games every 90 minutes, a different, marriage in 4 words, or, rune technology, with 1 letter or something like that, whatever it is. So it was wordplay games. And so that was for a long time. And then as Twitter started going a little crazy, we evolved away from Twitter. We originally created some technology on Twitter, but we ended up bailing a year before we would have had to have bailed anyway when Elon started charging $40,000 a month instead of $0 for the APIs. Yeah. And so we had already transitioned. I was working at Little Caesars in their digital side, and then was recruited over into their marketing side. And so we adapted and pivoted the technology to a full suite of tools for Instagram and Facebook. And Facebook is part of that as well. And so social media ROI delivered. So there's a whole bunch of great stuff on there. And so the idea, I didn't create Stampede Social to promote my podcast, but being a creator myself, I have this, and then working with influencers at Stampede Social, coming at it from agency point of view and personal point of view, I was able to kind of have a real understanding of the gaps in what we all want to do and what we need to do and how we wish it worked. And so we started developing a suite of tools.
We'll get right back to the show, but first I wanted to tell you about Social Media News Live. Jeff C. and his amazing guests will keep you up to date on what's happening in this entire changing world of social media. They talk with industry experts and innovators and creators about the latest social media news, tips, and tactics, and they broadcast live, so you can ask the questions that matter most to you and your business. Jim and I love this show, and we know that you will too. Head over to socialmedianewslive.com. Hey, tell them Dealcasters sent you. Now back to the show.
For Instagram and Facebook, for Instagram, DM automation. So, don't send people to your link in bio, comment below, get a DM. And then we built in some really cool attribution data layers so that it's not just about sending the link and doing the DM automation, but you can actually track back the full attribution down to the person that requested it, not just that it came from Instagram. Post level giveaways. We have a unique way of collecting the comments for every post and real and live event on Instagram. So that allows us to give you the ability to analyze comments in a particular post. And that can give you ideas on how to create other content in the same kind of vein as that. And then also do giveaways, because we can help you then do pick winners, to create a winners list from a post. And you can track user fan content. So if you were talking about a particular product and you're like, hey, when you do get this, do hashtag Amazon and tag at Dealcasters, whatever your Instagram specifically is, and it'll pull all those in, and then you have a database of those, and you can reply to those people and acknowledge them. And then we're able to kind of create top fan reports based on this, who's really engaging with you. But we also wanted to make it real simple and easy to use. So, some of the other softwares out there are very complex, a lot of flows you have to do. In some cases, there's entire companies built to help you work with those other companies. And and so we didn't want any of that. And so we kind of created, because that's my background, is product. And that's where it kind of all comes full circle, is sort of is creating products that work with the end user in mind, and be able to give you all the detailed insights and do competitive reports and give you an advantage over your competitors. So I like Richard. He keeps giving us more likes. And so it's he's really keeping me going. I would have
he's giving you gas, man.
I would have teetered out.
He would have left earlier. That's right.
Thank you, Richard. But yeah, so that's generally the gist of it. It's to help people, with something that they need to sell, or from a podcast point of view. Hey, go DM me on Facebook or Instagram instead of having them remember long URLs. So there's a million little nuances that kind of go into it that make up this whole platform.
Okay, so if for my squirrel brain, so if I post a clip from tonight's episode onto Instagram, and I'm a Stampede Social subscriber, I would say, Jeff dropped the wisdom about, how to integrate, the comedic mind in doing podcasts. And we have a clip, just an example off the top of my head. If you want the full episode, reply with, go into the comments and say, any word. Does it need to be a hashtag?
No.
But it can be.
No,
but it can be. Do you recommend that somebody uses a hashtag or not?
If you smush, the way that technology works, if you want to get in the weeds for 1 second, is you can have a word like comedy, or you could do 2 words, Jeff comedy, which you wouldn't do because that doesn't make sense. But my improv skills are lacking right now. And or if you wanted to do where you smush words together,
sure,
then you can use the hashtag, because I think people, when they see the hashtag, they read it. But if they forget the hashtag, that's okay.
Got it. And so let's just say episode, the word episode, right? And so people are like, well, I want this whole episode, and you don't put the word link in bio because nobody does that, right? And you can't put a link in these posts. So if somebody types in episode, I get a notification and it says this person did that, but it's automated on your end to deliver what you are saying they should get, and it goes into their DMs and gives them a link to where you want them to go. Do I have that right?
Right, yeah. So I would say something like EP 130 or whatever episode it is, or comedy. Jeff talked, about comedy, something, a keyword that kind of is more specific to maybe what you talked about, but episode 120. They comment episode 120, and within a couple seconds, they get a link from you where they can click that link and go to it. The real benefit to it is, I'm sure in your head you can think of a bunch of benefits, but one of the kind of key things that I think gets overlooked is we're not all ready to digest the content that we accidentally discover. Right. So somebody's slipping through Instagram and they see, oh, I like Dealcasters. Oh, they talked to Jeff Dwoskin. How did they get him? And so the this is probably must listen to podcasting. And so I'll comment episode 130. But I mean, I'm about to run out to, whatever, dinner or something, right? So I don't have 45 minutes to listen to a podcast.
Well, we're going for 3 hours, but go ahead.
Right. So, I mean, so one thing is like, you could think to yourself, like, I'll go back, but then your brain doesn't remember later. Where was that? I don't remember. Yeah. And if you do it in stories, which this works in stories, so you get them to comment, don't use the URL sticker, which I know we all fell in love with when they rolled it out. But the problem is the same problem. You don't want to be one of 50 open tabs on their phone. Because I'm sure if you're like me, at some point, those 50 tabs just get arbitrarily closed, right?
Yeah.
And so, but if you can get into the DM, two things happen. One is I know where it is because it's in the DM. So even if I forget it was Dealcasters, it was Deal something, Deal of the Century, what? I can't remember. But, it'll be there. And so, and then, and also then I can click on it later when I want to. So it's because it's there. And then I'm more likely to click on it more times because now I can kind of listen to it. And if I'm not ready, I'll go back to it. I can click it again, that kind of thing. And so, yeah, so that's kind of the whole idea is like get it somewhere where when they are ready for it, they can do it. I mean, sure, if they're ready to listen to it right then, great. But you know what I mean? Well, most of us aren't, right? That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the key thing. Get in the DM. And then you can also follow up with them. I mean, you probably have an automation that would be like, how amazing was Jeff? And
that sounds great.
And I know that's called just digging, just not letting go and just keep going. So nothing's funny anymore. So, but you can follow up with them and say, hey, did you enjoy the episode? That kind of thing. So now they're in a place where you can create that conversation. When I speak, like when I spoke at PodFest, I use the QR code that is in the Stampede social dashboard that opens up my Instagram DM, and then I set up a campaign. And then that way the people in the audience that want to engage with me send me a DM. That now they don't even have to click the link because they're in my DM. I can follow up with them after the show because I know the intent. If they had just gone to my website, I would have no idea. No idea.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Now it's coming. Now, okay. So can you put information to tell somebody in a story to make that comment in the story? Because I know when you're watching a story, you can type something on a story, right? You can like it. So are you able to?
So you can comment on a story. Yeah, comment on Facebook or Instagram story.
And you could do the same thing with Stampede and have that as active like a post.
It's automatic. Yeah. When you set up a campaign, you can create call to actions that'll trigger against an Instagram or Facebook story, send me a direct message, send me a direct DM, comment on a post, a reel, or Instagram live event. You can go live and do it as well. So you can go live on Instagram, comment, whatever. You can say MAR25. So they can get a link to whatever Amazon stuff, that page that has all the Amazon talking about or whatever.
Oh yeah,
or you could set up individual products.
Send them a link to the product or something like that, right?
So you can put and you can put any link you want in. It can be your affiliate links, anything. It doesn't matter.
Right. So Jeff, do you guys have what are some of the new things you're maybe looking at adding to Stampede Social?
Right now we're a little bit focused on admittedly, as customer base grows, we have to kind of think about some customer service things just to put in place to help it scale so it doesn't overload us. Those are some minor things that of no interest to the customers, but you still get it. But we're taking a lot of the reports and creating AI HTML versions of them that actually explain it. So it goes beyond just here's the cool raw data, so which is some people might love, and 95% of people want something more spoon fed to them, which is the category I fall in, which is why I'm a big advocate of it. And so, and then, just some additional kind of minor features here and there that, at some point we got to let it settle in, with product before kind of doing anything major. But we have a couple other platforms we're looking at, just waiting for some approvals and some additional features, just to make the stuff that already exists add some more flexibility to it.
So you talked a little bit about doing, sweepstakes or contests or promotions with it. Well, what does that look like in terms of like if let's just say Jim and I were wanting to do a Shure microphone giveaway on May the 4th, a Star Wars SM58 that you can't stand up and use in a podcast. You have to use a real podcast microphone. So how would that work in Stampede to make that available to the Dealcasters people?
So there's a bunch of good blogs on our thing as well that cover some giveaways. You don't have to click to them. I'm just letting you know. But like,
okay.
We're here. We've been spending a lot of time on the blogs. There's a lot. Yeah. Actually, one of our biggest blogs is some legal stuff you need to know. So just know this, that
that's a sexy segue. There's nothing but like legal content to make the clicks go like this, man.
Well, let's go. So here's the thing. I'm not a lawyer. Okay. So anything I'm about to tell you, just know I'm not a lawyer. But I did work in the promotion industry for 6 years. Okay. And so did Robin, my co-founder. And so I understand it and I know the direction you need to go in. So if you're a big brand or anything like that, you should always have your legal team develop a set of rules and have abbreviated rules. And you have to say Instagram's not part of it and stuff like that. The reason even a small creator or anyone who maybe doesn't, if you choose to believe that you're not going to be come after legally, let me put it that way, you should still at least fake a set of abbreviated rules. So that, and why? Because one, you want to say at least, over 18, USA only, if that's the country you choose. And the reason I say USA only is important is you have to follow us, that kind of stuff, is if you're ordering digitally on Amazon, that may not matter. But if you're shipping something, that can cost a lot of money to send it to another country. So you want to kind of just protect yourself when you do stuff like that. But so that aside, so talk to your lawyers. But like, sorry, I when I was at Little Caesars, like it was my job to interface with the lawyers. That did not make me the most popular person.
That's good times,
on the marketing team. But I learned a lot. But that still didn't make me a lawyer. I mean, if I was on the TV show Suits, it would make me a lawyer. But in real life, it does not. And so there's two types of giveaways or promotions you can do. One is you can use the DM automation. And you can say comment below, and I'll send you a registration form, and that's how you enter, right? So the reason you would do that, where you put something on your website and you collect information, is your goal is you want to get a email opt-in, but you may want to also get other. Don't get into the trap where you're collecting emails and DMs and stuff, because you really want first name, last name also, and there's only so much personal identifiable information, PII, that you want to really start in DMs. Okay, so but on a form that you're collecting, and the secure form that you're collecting, you can ask for that. You can then also ask them other stuff. How often do you buy from Amazon? Or do like little things like that. Just ask them. You can make them optional, but so you can start to really understand your audience a bit in terms of asking them these questions.
What's your favorite yacht rock artist? That's another thing we want.
I love yacht rock. If you go to my classic Conversations Public store, I made a yacht rock shirt. And so,
Who's better, Toto or Loggins and Messina?
I mean, that's like choosing one child over another. Yeah, they're both amazing.
This is the second time I've done this, man. I need to stop.
But the other type of giveaway you can do on Instagram, and I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm saying depending on your objectives, one you can mix them up and do different ones at different times. Is post level giveaways, right? So the problem with post level giveaways is that in general, let's say you had 1,000 comments on a post, there's no good way to get to those posts. Maybe you need that can do something. There's some apps out there that'll randomly pick one name, but I'll tell you, like, that's not really a great way if you're ever legally challenged to say, well, I use this app and it randomly picked this name. So with Stampede Social, because we collect all the comments, we have the winner selection tool built in. I should say we have a feature you could use as a winner selection tool. It has all the features. But so you then winners post level giveaway, you're saying, hey, comment below, and here you can do whatever you want. Like comment below soccer ball emoji or 3 fire emojis, or you don't have to require anything. You could say Ecamm did one. They're like, tell us all how you feel about this hotspot video camera, and people talked about it that way, and so every one of those comments
okay. Yeah. Okay.
And so then you can say you could only enter one time, or you could say you could enter 5 times, or as many as you want, and then when you hit shuffle, it'll dedupe it and randomize it 5 times for you and basically give you what you could use as a top-down winner selection list. And so so then it's all built in. And then the other cool thing is, since I mentioned Ecamm, which I think we're all friends with, and
it's what's powering tonight's show.
Yeah, Ecamm is awesome, and so I'm part of Ecamm fam with all of you. I say
we're all part of the fam.
We're all part of the fam, and so when these comments come in, like specifically in like that Ecamm example, because they were all talking about the robot, the video camera, you could then hit the button that says AI comment analysis, and it'll analyze all those comments.
Oh,
you can download,
nice.
And so it gives you kind of a little report back on those, which is cool. And then you could give that to your customer, or finesse it, or do whatever you want with it. But it's an interesting, new data source. So
nice. So Jim, we could do that, and I could just. And he talked about finessing. I could pull out all the comments that talk about my hair. I can pull those out because, I mean, they don't need to hear about that, and it's embarrassing.
No one needs to hear about that.
No one does. No one does. Jeff, I can't believe that this has flown by, and we've gone overtime, and that means you win the prize of being best guest in the world, and at least tonight. And I appreciate it, man. This has been the most fun show I think I've done in the show, in the amount of shows, and this is our first show. So thank you for being a part of our inaugural episode. But this is great. And for those that are just listening and not watching for whatever reason, go to stampede.social to check this thing out. This is killer. All of the information, they have multiple different plans, monthly, annual. A lot of stuff I learned today during this episode that I did not know about, that I thought was, okay, this is just a thing where you're going to make a comment and then you're going to be able to get in their DMs. They have a lot of stuff under the hood here to do that. And of course, check out Classic Conversations. This is really a fun, this has got to be like I know it's a big enough show to where it, obviously the channel's monetized and you've got, some other stuff, but it's got to be a great passion project for you as well, right, Jeff?
Yeah, I love it. And so, and I've been getting into putting up the video versions as well. I resisted for a long time, but I'm assuming the Yacht Rock was maybe. Did you see the post I made the other day on Instagram? On LinkedIn, I mean. So there was if you got one, I can tell you like a story. So you know how like everyone's like, what? The big controversy is, do we do video podcasts, right? And
is that a controversy? Yeah. Okay.
It is. Jim knows what I'm talking about. And well, everyone's like, and so in the Yacht Rock documentary on Max, which I highly recommend to everyone, if you love Yacht Rock, or even if you don't, because you should. There's nothing about Yacht Rock that I think one should not like. I mean, it's
what did Yacht Rock do to you for you to hate Yacht Rock?
Yacht Rock is amazing. In the Yacht Rock documentary, thank you, Richard, is I do want to say, like, if you want to check out Stampede's social, stampede.social, you can use the promo code DC30, DC30.
Boom.
So that's you actually get 37 free days because the first 7 days were free anyway. It's free trial, and then you get your first month. This is what really that is.
Nice.
Of the show. And so in the Yacht Rock, they talk about, like, when MTV was coming around, that the stars that adapted to video and MTV were the ones that flourished and kept going, and the ones that didn't eventually kind of faded away or had a really rough run at it. And I was watching it and I'm like, oh, that's exactly what's happening right now in our podcast world, where people are talking about, do we move to video? It's like, because it's like right at that early stage of, do you do it? Though I still think that, this is a whole different podcast. Sorry. Okay, I know you guys are right.
No, I love the analogy.
No, but it's making me think of the song "Video Killed the Radio Star."
Right, and so I posted about that, and like, it's like, yeah, I think you need to be. But I think the misnomer is you need to be on YouTube. It doesn't necessarily have to be video. I have some huge episodes that are just the audio with an image, one single image. And I mean, that had, for me at least, a lot of listens. I mean, like the one from Holly from Lost in Space, Kathy Coleman, if you're familiar with that 70s classic, that is like 1,500 listens. It's There's no video. I can't even put the video up because it was a phoner. And so it was like, it doesn't even exist. And so, so I think when people say they watch or not watch, I think what people who aren't in that young category aren't understanding is people use YouTube. It doesn't mean they're watching, they're listening. Right. And so, just we assume because there's a visual that you have to say they're watching. And I don't know that that's true. So.
Yeah, I think you had good content there, and you got some Google juice with the names and probably what you titled the show of. And I just feel like at this point, what's the excuse for not turning on the webcams or whatever, and at least having something that's video appropriate as opposed to maybe just a still image or a squiggly line over it. And I do think, like, at this point, YouTube is probably not, there's so much other video oriented content in podcasting. Those are the ones that the algorithm is favoring over the ones that are just, hey, here's my audio podcast. And, on my podcast host, if I just hit a button, it shows up on my YouTube channel with a graphic. It's like, I don't think those are getting, the algorithm's really treating them like real video content.
Right.
And so, but are you going to get completely forgotten? At this point, it just start now is really just kind of what you're doing. Again, like you're just like, hey, I'm doing the video thing. You don't have to, like, oh my gosh, I have to put 300 episodes of video. Just
I'm not going back.
Get it up. Yeah,
but I figure if ever, like, I wanted to maintain consistency, and let's say, like, I was videoing something and that person's video didn't work, I could just put up an older episode of the video that I hadn't put up before. Right. I mean, you could do that. My hesitation wasn't that I didn't want to do video. It was that I think the listening experience is different from an audio podcast and a video podcast.
I agree.
Yep.
And I didn't have time to edit two different versions of the same podcast. And then I've just started making time, I guess. But, but I edit differently I treat it more with a live mentality when I'm doing the video. It's like, if the dog ran in right now and barked. And the audio version, that would have been cut out. You would never know that happened. But if you're watching, there's something about, oh, that happened. But you don't have the visual if you're just listening, right? Oh, there's David Zucker. So I tried to scratch my nose for a second. So David Zucker is Zaz. He was the director who, if you love comedy, you probably owe him a thank you. He was the original Airplane, Naked Gun, the TV show Police Squad, Ruthless People, Scary Movie 3.
Stop Calling
Scary
Me
Movie
Shirley.
4. Yep, Stop Calling Me Shirley, exactly. And so he was one of those where I emailed him and I'm like, he'll know, And he comes back and goes, yeah, sure, I'll be on your podcast. I'm like, what?
Yeah, you look very happy in this video, Jeff. You look very happy to be interviewing. Much happier than being on our show, actually, for whatever reason. I think
it's a tight first place, second place. But
okay, good.
Yeah, no, Zucker was hilarious, very subtly funny. And yeah, no, I enjoyed that conversation a lot. And I get to read a book, that book that's right there. Like when I read a book, if I say I love the book, they're not paying me. A lot of times I get the book myself or something like that, and I'll read it. Oh yeah, I really enjoy it. But if you look, that's a great book. Surely you can't be serious. But yeah, to me, Zaz is David Zucker. Some of my favorite comedies of all time that he created.
Yeah. And clearly, he must be a Guinness fan. I mean, look at that background. He's got that must be his bar in the basement or something. He's got the Guinness sign behind him. This dude's was he drunk when you were interviewing him, or what's going on?
No, he was.
No, I'm kidding.
He was super cool, and
this is a great interview.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's funny, that YouTube video did not take off, and I was and I've been trying to promote it during YouTube says this is the most active time and you should do this. And I'm I used to just release it at midnight when the podcast would get released, but then YouTube said this is how many people are on your channel of your fans. None for 4 hours, right? So then I'm but they're
when they log in, it'll be there, right? You log in, it'll be in their feed.
That's what I'm going to go back to, because I released that when it's supposedly the height of my fandom, and I was I 6 views. And then I'll tell you what thing does work on YouTube is if you see something not getting traction, go change the thumbnail and the title. Yeah, so I changed the thumbnail and the title and shot up 50. So the other thing that's frustrating is how could YouTube know what my video is for 24 hours, which they say digest it, love it, here's a good and show it to 6,000 people. They claim they showed it to 6,000 people, and 40 of you decided to watch it for. 3 seconds is a click, right?
Yeah.
5,950 of you said no. YouTube recommended this, but we're gonna hard pass on one of the greatest comedy directors of all time. We're not even gonna give it 5 seconds. And I was just how is this even possible? Why do you hate me? Why do you hate me?
Yeah. But it is true. It's there's so much of it is about the thumbnail and the title. Yeah. It really is. And it breaks my heart a little bit, because for you, you're obviously extremely passionate about it, but unfortunately you're going to have to find some, 3-letter word to put on there and make a duck face, find the spot where David Zucker was making, and point, just we have right here. Yeah, do that. Make that look right there. And then all of a sudden, you're YouTube famous. But, a lot of it has to do with that. And we've toyed around and A-B'd thumbnails before, but you can only do so much before it'll make you crazy too, and sometimes it comes later.
I did a George Foreman RIP short, 45-second short, and I just cranked out 3,000 views, over 3,000 views, and a ton of followers. I picked up a ton of followers from it as well.
Really?
Yeah, none of which came out in the video, but I think as a creator, you also have to, be willing to laugh at your numbers. So it's, other things, I hit, but it's it'd be nice if I could get that extra 50 cents of YouTube AdSense. Come on.
Snake eyes. All right.
That was the other funny thing. Oh, God. Sorry, I was going to say, that's the other funny thing about everyone trying to convince people to do video on YouTube. Go ahead, spend 2 hours making your video so you can make $1.12. It's like,
right, exactly.
Yep.
Wait, that's all you
being
make?
Generous. I'm just saying, like,
there goes all our viewers.
You know how many views?
Jeff, there goes both of our viewers after you said that. They're like, oh man, this doesn't make any money.
Well, YouTube, it's YouTube. We're all trying to figure it out. One thing pops, one thing doesn't.
Yeah.
I like to make fun of that. Keeps me humble.
Awesome. Jeff, this has been great. Thank you for making our show better today and a lot funnier. The show, from Jim, from this point forward, it'll never be as funny as this episode. So we're gonna have to try to get a little bit more funny. Maybe I can tickle you or something during the show.
Or maybe
virtually.
Jeff can give us a class on comedy and one of us will become
that's
funny.
a good call.
Maybe that could be my lead magnet and I can get rich.
There you go. Comedic podcast classes coming soon from stampede.social. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Jeff Dwoskin, all of his links are in the show notes. So go down there, click on all the stuff. And of course, it's stampede.social. And as always, don't fear the gear.
Thanks for listening to Dealcasters. Congratulations. You've taken another step forward in your content creation journey. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe or follow button here in your favorite podcast player so you can be reminded every time we drop an episode.
We love hearing from our listeners and viewers. And if you're wanting to watch our shows live on Amazon, feel free to follow Dealcasters Live as well at dealcasters.live. Follow us on Twitter or subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we also included added content that you cannot find anywhere else.
If you have questions about this episode or have something you want us to review, you can also email us at dealcasters@dealcasters.live. Thanks again for listening, and you know the deal. Don't fear the gear.